Hi, and welcome to the October 1st edition of Simone Says, your weekly power guide. And this week, we are celebrating the imminent retrograde of the planet Venus in the sign of Scorpio. And why do I say celebrate? Because I know that some of you may not be looking forward to this, especially if your own Venus is in Scorpio. I've been hearing from people who are dreading this transit because Venus is going into the underworld. She always does go into the underworld, no matter what sign she happens to be in. This happens about every 2 years that Venus goes retrograde for about a month and a half. But retrograde in Scorpio is a whole other story because it means that we are dredging up old pain in order to heal it on many levels. Think back to 2010, the last time that Venus retrograded in Scorpio, because there are going to be similar themes for you. During that time for myself, my father was dying. It was a very difficult time for him, for me, and it forced me to go very deep and deal with a lot of old pain of childhood in order to be of support for him. But at the other end of that, I inherited a house. And Dad got to be out of pain where he had been for a long time. So Scorpio is certainly about hidden treasure. And let us not forget that finding hidden treasure really starts within. Scorpio is associated with money, other people's money, or shared finances, certainly. And it's also associated with sexuality and commitments and trust issues. So these are the kinds of themes that are going to be up and already are up because Venus has been in Scorpio now for over a week and is very slow, getting ready to literally turn retrograde on Friday, but the process has already begun. And of course, what did we just have happen in the big news of the week was Dr. Ford's testimony, in which she had to bravely go deep and relive a trauma for the higher good. This woman's life has essentially been ruined, but she knew that it was time to come out with this information. So here's the other thing about this Venus retrograde that sets it apart from others. It's coinciding with the final pass of Jupiter in Scorpio. And Jupiter in Scorpio began last October with the Harvey Weinstein debacle and the Me Too movement starting to really gain steam. So it's obvious that that energy being back in the news so strongly is coming in for a kind of final hurrah before Jupiter enters Sagittarius in the second week of November. So while Jupiter and Venus, both of which are considered benefics or planets that bring favorable energies with them, while they're both in Scorpio all of October through early November, we all have a chance to go deep, to plumb the depths, and to find and heal those old wounds and to bravely confess to them if necessary, or at least bring them up out of the dungeon and deal with them in some way so they don't go on affecting us adversely. Now, of course, Venus is considered to be not in an ideal placement when in the sign of Scorpio. And yet, Scorpio is the sign of the goddess. And that's actually why I have this image of the Mists of Avalon up behind me. This book, if you're familiar with it, by Marion Zimmer Bradley. It came out in the 80s. This book was an initiation, is the only word that can be used, for myself and for so many women that I know. And when I teach priestess classes, I recommend this book, even though it's very Venus in Scorpio. It's all about pain and moving through it, and sexual longing and spiritual longing. And it's basically the King Arthur story told from the priestess's point of view, the time when the patriarchy, especially in its Christian form, was starting to take over the land. And it is a fictionalized account, of course, because we don't really know. In fact, we're not even sure that there were priestesses living on Avalon, if that's a true myth, but certainly there were priestesses in the old days. And I feel that whether we're men or women, that this priestess energy, this goddess energy, is really being reborn within us. And I'm frankly very excited about that, even though it means we may have to face a lot of fears and a lot of turmoil in order to really claim that. Recently, I have become aware of what I consider my definite chief aim in life. That's actually the title of a book written by my friend Mitch Horowitz. And it goes way beyond astrology. It really has to do with helping the goddess be reborn on the planet and within all of us. And of course, the goddess never really left. She's here in nature. But they did their best to stamp her out. But there's no stamping out the goddess. The goddess is rising again and within us. And it is time, and nature and the world are in peril. So use this Venus retrograde to find out how you can help, what kind of a part you may be playing in this whole saga, and what kind of old pain you need to shed, like the skin of the snake, in order to really play your part, because we all incarnated at this time for a reason, right? So back to the week. The other main thing is happening on Tuesday, and that is Mercury will be squaring Pluto. Pluto's extra strong right now because it just turned forward after being in retrograde mode for many months. So Pluto is strong, it's moving forward, and Mercury is the mind and communication. So it is, yes, it's a square. It can be challenging. We may find that communications are extremely intense around Tuesday, or a day before, a day after. And this, however, is also a kind of a message that's coming through that may have to do with what this Mercury, or rather this Venus retrograde that starts officially on Friday, but certainly colors the whole week, what that may have for you. So pay close attention to whatever's going on around Tuesday, because the moon interacts with this moon Pluto in kind of a tricky way. There can be a lot of emotional upset on that day. So I'm just warning you that if you have important meetings or events, Tuesday may not be the best day, nor may Friday. There are certain strictures associated with Venus retrograde, by the way, such as, because Venus rules money, it's not a great time to be buying goods, especially luxury goods, because you may end up paying too much. Or I remember a friend's next door neighbor who bought her house under a Venus retrograde some years ago, and almost immediately started living with her boyfriend. So her new house sat empty for 5 years, and there's been nothing but problems with this house. And I warned my friend to tell her neighbor, who was a friend of hers, that Venus was retrograde. It's probably not the best time to buy a house. But the woman went on and did it. And So that's one thing to be aware of. Financial deals. Selling houses is maybe a little easier under this energy, but buying new ones or making major investments is probably best postponed at least until December. And the other thing is love, because often people will get into obsessive sexual obsessions and love affairs and intense type situations under Venus retrograde, especially in Scorpio. So that's something else to be aware of, and being drawn back into a love situation, a sexual connection that is not great for you. So even if you may want to do some healing around the past and past loves, that's a good use of this transit. Do be careful about falling back into old relationships. So let's talk about a ritual. One thing I'm going to do for the Venus retrograde is I'm actually going tomorrow to a local metaphysical bookstore, and I'm going to buy myself a pentagram necklace. The pentagram is a symbol of Venus. It's a 5-pointed star, and it's also been a symbol of the goddess and her worship for millennia. And actually, over the course of 8 years, Venus traces this 5-pointed star in the heavens. So in my reclaiming of my identity as a priestess and a follower of the goddess, I am purchasing a pentagram to wear around my neck that will help me to remember at all times why I'm here. So you might want to do that too, or you might, if you feel called, or you may want to draw a pentagram or print one out off the internet and frame it or add to it, or put it up somewhere where you will remember this beautiful magical pattern of Venus. And of course, Venus is associated with the goddess and always has been. The other thing I shared recently on the Cosmic Download with Anna Celestino is that it's really important at this time during this retrograde to do a lot of belly breathing. Your belly is your center of the goddess. The Scorpio energies are associated with the womb, the reproductive organs, and the belly. So put your hands on your belly. Breathe deeply into your belly. Breathe out any old pain, tension, whatever. And you might also just ask yourself, what is my definite chief aim in my life? And ask your belly to give you an answer, because under this retrograde Venus, the introspective energies are heightened, or deepened, I should say, to the nth degree. And the final thing to share is because I'm so excited about this Venus transit, I actually made a beautiful, I don't think you can really see it, a beautiful Venus sticker. It can be a bumper sticker. You can put it on your mirror, your computer, wherever you need to be reminded of this power that is available to us all under the Venus retrograde that's coming in. And this sticker is free to my patrons. It just drop me an email and I will put one in the mail to you. It's also being offered as a token of, the goddess to people who sign up for my show between now and the day that Venus goes retrograde, which is October 5th. So if you like this show, and bear in mind that, of course, there are written daily forecasts and written sign-by-sign forecasts that go along with this, which I am not obviously sharing today, just the video, to give you a sense of what it is that I'm doing. Every week I record a show like this, and it's always a different theme because the planets are always changing And I always give some idea of a ritual or how to work with the energy and the highlights of the week ahead. So if you would like to get this wonderful sticker and stay in tune and in the flow with the planetary energies, then contact me at either my website, which is astroalchemy.com, or my Patreon site, which is www.patreon.com/Simone Butler. And that's where the show is actually located, and you can find out more about it there. All right? So enjoy this retrograde Venus and go with these deep, dark, intense energies and rebirth the goddess within yourself and the world. See you next time.